SEC Sidelines Morning Band, directed by Field Marshal Brendan Martin. I love it. I love the band. Hey, it is a Monday, April 28th, 2025. Good morning, Grand Bob, and everybody who likes to keep up with dates.
How was your weekend?
Great. There was so much going on. We had a crawfish boil yesterday. Crawfish and Gulf Coast shrimp. Had a big time.
I did not do that. I didn't have any of that because I was at a soccer tournament all weekend.
Soccer is a lifestyle.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida. My old stopping grounds, actually.
Home of
Meadows. Yeah. And
Brendan.
Let me just report very quickly the Ocala Premier Storm 12 year old gals. They played great. First they had 9 goals. They won first two games on Saturday and advanced to the finals the next day, the semis the next day. Got knocked out by a pretty good team, and they were all injured. And my kid, Stella, played hurt. She played hurt with a bad whole heel situation, but she gutted it out, and
there you go,
proud dad. But I got the tan going on.
Absolutely. Look, you're going to play hurt all your life, man. We got a great show today. Take a picture with your cell phone of the QR code. Follow us on X and on the YouTube channel, Facebook as well. We got a ton of content coming out. All right, all you people listening that are playing, talking about Stella, 12, 13-year-old kids out there gutting it out, bunch of girls. In my experience, coaching girls at that age is way easier than coaching the boys. That's like herding cats. My daughter, I remember that. That was easy compared to my boys. They're, again, like trying to get a mule to do something. I'm not going to get into that. But Ben Troupe, 84 Reasons podcast in Kennesaw, from Savannah to Kennesaw, Chris Lee Southeastern 16 up in Nashville. What a weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And Chris, we love all 16 of the SEC teams. It's like, we've got 16 kids. What was your takeaway before we go to Ben on the SEC 79 players drafted, but 2 years in a row we've loaned the national championship to the Big Ten? That hurts. How soon can we get it back?
Ask me when the transfer portal settles and we know the rosters.
Yeah. Well, Ben, we're talking about this draft, and we'll kind of go back and forth, what I call a good tennis match, fast pace. You played for the Titans, like he says. He's, season ticket holder up there. Cam Ward's coming up there. How deep was this draft? 15 of the top 32 from the SEC. That's good, but the Big Ten had a bunch too.
The draft was deep. It wasn't deep at the quarterback position like we thought it would be, but give the Big Ten a lot of credit. No one ever said that the Big Ten don't got good teams. It's just they're very top heavy, and those top heavy teams won the last 2 national championships. No one ever said anything about Ohio State lacking talent or Michigan lacking talent. But 79 players speaks volumes. I know that the Big Ten has 71, but the SEC, I get it. People can't stand the SEC because it looked like we got a monopoly on all sports networks. Everybody going to talk about it. The SEC got a monopoly like the Dallas Cowboys got a monopoly. You just got to talk about them for some odd reason. But you're not talking about the SEC because they're just bland. You talk about them because they are dominant. No, the SEC is not going to win every year. But you would think the SEC has never won since the last 2 years. Oh, the SEC is not that good. Well, the SEC beat up on each other throughout the course of the year. Quinn Ewers got drafted in the 7th round. He went to two semifinals 2 years in a row. Like it meant nothing. Just did. So sometimes, it's SEC fatigue. People get so sick of hearing about it. But ask Michigan how good the SEC is. Ask Aiden Hutchinson how good Georgia is, right? Ask Ohio State how good the SEC is. So much so, Lincoln Riley could have stayed in the SEC. He knew what was coming. I'm going to USC. I'm not dealing with I'm going to the other USC. I'm going to the one, out west. But I respect every conference, regardless of how many players they put out. I think sometimes, but if you are a player coming out in 2025, 2026, you're going either big, depending on the part of the country you're from. If you're from the South, you're going to stay in the South. My nephew's going to Kennesaw State this fall. Georgia boy. He talking about, He said, Unc, I want to go to Ohio State. I said, nephew, they don't recruit that far. They don't go unless your name is Justin Fields, who transferred in. They don't come that far to get a running back. If you a person from Ohio ain't never felt the heat, just like a person from Georgia ain't never seen the snow. You're not going. It's just so. But I was happy for everybody that did get drafted. I think sometimes with the draft we forget how hard it is to get drafted. 250 some guys.
Yeah.
They should put a camera. They should give every draft eligible player a camera. Every last one of them. Like
Ben,
so
Ben, let me say this.
Don't get drafted because I think it's crazy.
Yeah, we had 330 million people in this country, Chris, and he just said 252 of them get drafted. Chris, you looking at this big picture, and Ben's right. I respect all the conferences, but 79 players drafted. You cover Vanderbilt closely, okay? Kentucky, they had a 6'7", 330-pound defensive tackle taken. Were you surprised by some of the SEC guys where they were drafted either way higher than you thought or way lower than you anticipated?
Yeah, you just brought up Deion Walker, and I was at a travel baseball tournament with my son watching the draft tracker, and he came in round 4. I was like, what?
Yeah.
We were talking about him as a first rounder, and I right when that happened, one of the parents on our team's big Kentucky fan follows, and I said, what happened with Deion Walker? He said, well, I think there's some fitness concerns. I was like, well, he's 370 pounds. I'm like, yeah, well, he's also like a run stuffing monster. So it's almost dizzying, I guess, is my point. You've got so many dudes in this league that I'd totally forgotten about Deion Walker till he got drafted.
Yeah. Well, what was wild is, Quinn Ewers in the 7th round, wasn't he offered $8 million supposedly by a school to stay another year? Ben, what does a 7th round draft pick make guaranteed, and how many years will he likely get? Just you got a good idea.
Well, I want to say after the first round, everybody makes the same yearly. Everybody does. As far as like what they make now, the signing bonus is going to be different. The signing bonus is going to be. I think in the first round, everybody's contract is fully guaranteed. Now, when I say everybody makes the same, people, I think that's around $600,000-$700,000. So we're not talking pennies here. But Quinn Ewers, when he was asked why he got drafted, he said it was the right time. It was around the right time. He's very, very mature. Like you look at a kid from Texas, missed his senior year, went to Ohio State, never played, went to Texas, and then he had to deal with the Manning, Arch Manning, and he was a really, really good player. I think the thing about the draft is we have to give these scouts a lot of credit. You guys talking about Tennessee, their DB or Hairston, Maxwell Hairston. What he did in the green room to put his family where he got to greet every first rounder that came by. There are certain players you see why they got drafted, even if you don't know them. That type of character is what teams want. They want a guy. Listen, look, everybody can play. When people go, I didn't think that guy was that good. He is. I didn't think he would go that low. He did. But guess what? You could take all 250-some players that just got drafted, throw them away. We could do the whole draft again. Brand new players, same positions. Because we don't know how good Cam Ward is going to be. But what he did in college wanted him to be the number 1 pick in 2025. We don't know. But I'm just enamored by some of the things we hear throughout the course of the draft because so many analysts. I mean, I love Mel Kiper, like everybody does, right? Mel Kiper misses a lot. Right? Because he's going to miss. This is the same Mel Kiper that said Jimmy Clausen out of Tennessee said, if this kid don't make it in Carolina, I will quit doing this. Well, Jimmy Clausen didn't make it. And I want to say Mel Kiper's in year 37. I love the analytics of it, but this is what gets us in trouble. Mock drafts gets us in more trouble.
Yeah.
Mock drafts analytics. Listen, you know what? Next year, there's Chris, Rob, me, you, but we all gonna do our mock draft. We gonna do our mock since everybody else gonna do it. By the time the draft come, one guy has done 10 mock drafts. It's changed 10 times by the time we get to the draft because I know the big controversy is Shadur this and Shadur that. Listen to me. Shadur Sanders, if anybody is built to handle adversity, it is him. Right? Yeah. He can handle it. And this was going to scare the league. He did it at Jackson State. He did it at Colorado. Who had the most receivers drafted in this draft? That would be Colorado. They had the most receivers taken in this draft. Who threw to him? That would be Shadur. If he goes to Cleveland, and he makes Cleveland a contender. See, to me, that's why I'm happy he didn't go to a team that was, quote, a media darling. Like, I mean, it's Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, Shador, and Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I just think it's the storylines that I like about the draft. I think it's the players that you haven't seen or heard of before that got drafted. And like I said, it's all about where you land. And I just think that when we look back on this draft, it'll be less about what did or didn't happen to Shador Sanders and more about, man, you got a lot of good players that went to, listen, the kid out of Alabama, the jihad kid out of Alabama that went 31 overall to Philly. You see why Philly be winning? This is why Philly wins. They just sit back and wait. And they said, nobody, hey, listen, we get a top 2 linebacker at pick 31.
Yeah.
Another Alabama, basically, if you go to Alabama and you go to Georgia and you play defense, you're going to Philadelphia. They're gonna get one
Ben,
at this point.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is, and Chris, you saw this in the draft. Isaiah Bond transferred from Alabama, famous for catching 4th and 31 at the Jordan-Hare Stadium that broke a lot of hearts, because I had picked Auburn to win 27-24 that morning, and everybody on my text thread, half Auburn, half Alabama guys, were all friends. Like, Brown, you snorting coke? I'm like, no. I'm like, I really think that's going to happen. And I was looking like a genius. And Isaiah Bond transfers to Alabama. Well, you know what, Chris? It might be stick it out, because moving from one school to another so frequently is not real smart. Chris, the state of the SEC, you cover the whole league. I keep saying this, catching folks, Southeastern 16, they're putting out content every day. You love baseball? Wow. Harry Carey ain't around anymore, but this guy knows SEC baseball. Chris, you said something last week. I want to touch on baseball real quick about the dominance of this conference right now compared to basketball. Say it again. I want people to hear it from your mouth.
Yeah, baseball in the SEC is even more competitive than basketball, and I don't think it's particularly close. If you don't believe me, I'm going to read you the RPIs in this league as of this morning. And I'm going in order of standing, so the order of RPI will jump around a little bit. Texas won in the RPI. Arkansas, second place in the SEC, is 5, tied with LSU, which is 9. Tennessee is 4th, they're 10, followed by Alabama, which is 14. In a 4-way tie for 5th with Georgia, which is 2, Vandy, which is 3, Ole Miss, which is 18. 9th place Oklahoma and Auburn are 23 and 4 respectively in the RPI. 11th place Kentucky is 29. 12th place Florida is 19. Texas A&M, your defending national runner-up, is 12th place and 40. And this is my favorite stat of the year. South Carolina is in 15th place in the SEC. I think it is the only team in the country without a loss in quad 2, 3, or 4. That is this league.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats in Tennessee at 13 and 8. I mean, they Texas at 19 and 2. We brought sand to the beach when we brought Texas and OU in, because Texas has been 38 times to the College World Series. And I'm looking, Chris, at pitching in this league with the portal being what it is. There just doesn't seem to be as much movement. Am I correct? Between the schools as there is in the other sports? Because baseball, we just don't hear about the portal as much. Why am I thinking that?
You mean guys transferring in or out, or both?
Just, you don't see guys coming for a semester with baseball. They seem to be more long-term, in their approach.
It depends on the school. And my mind went to Arkansas. Arkansas's Friday night starter, Zach Root, played at East Carolina last year. It's number 3 starter, Landon Beidelshees, played at Ohio State last year. Auburn, its number 1 starter is Sam Dutton, was at LSU a year ago.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kentucky, its number 1 starter, or actually number 2 now, Nick McKay, was at South Dakota State a year ago.
Yeah.
LSU, its rotation, Anthony Eisen, their number 2, was one from one of the California state schools. Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State's rotation. Carson Ligon came in from Miami a couple of years ago. Vanderbilt, Connor Fennell, kid from Dayton, nobody talked about, struck out 13 guys, transferred in this year. So I think teams are very selective about taking pitchers. And boy, as offense heavy as the NCAA is right now in baseball, there are more starting pitchers and like jumbo relief guys who can go 3, 4, 5 innings and just shut you down that I remember in a while. It is a league loaded with durable pitching in a time where that's hard to find.
Yeah, it is. All right, now I want to switch gears again. The Atlanta Falcons, we're in the Southeast with the web and all, we're everywhere. We've got listeners coast to coast, and we've got them global. We had George Somerville on from Glasgow from Touchdown UK Friday. That was fun. And I got to say this to you, Chris. We had 2 edge rushers, Jalen Walker and James Pierce from Tennessee, Walker from Georgia, drafted by the Falcons. Let's do a quick analysis of that, and then I want Ben's reaction because you know what Ben always says? When I die, I want 6 Falcon players to be my pallbearers so they can let me down just one more time.
Oh, man.
He's so bad. God, Troupe, you're terrible. Well, but I've been a Falcons fan a long time. Job had a lot in common. He's a Falcons fan, but go ahead, Chris. And then we'll go.
I have a quick Falcons story. One of my best friends is a big Falcons fan and a season ticket holder. And I go to his house every year for a Super Bowl party, and I was at the Patriots one. Yeah. And they're up 28-3, and he's sitting in his recliner. And I'm getting happy for him. And he just has this look of stoicism on his face the whole time. And I don't think it ever changed from they were up 28-3 to the final. And when it was over, we always give hugs and say our goodbyes. I didn't even have the heart to console him, tell him good game, great. Hey, buddy, bye. And I'm thinking, I know what you're going through. You just want to sit in your misery for a little bit and deal with it. But to those guys, I think Pierce is an interesting player because he was mocked at 1-1 before the season, which,
he was.
Preseason mock drafts are kind of useless. The results vary, but that told you something about the talent. You heard some talks about character concerns. I'm not sure entirely what that was. His productivity wasn't outstanding, but they had a lot of help and depth on the defensive line. Yeah. And like sometimes with those guys, it's hard to know where to assign credit. And Georgia guys are always interesting to me because they got a ton of first round type talents. And you look at the stat sheet and nobody ever pops, right? Because they are bringing in, they're 3 deep on the defensive line. They'll bring in edge guys. They sub a lot because they got, there's always 20 draft picks on that roster whenever. Some of them may be 2 years away. But my point is, when there's so many great elite players out there, it is really always hard to separate who is doing the stuff and who is maybe benefiting because you got this other guy to contend with and this other guy can contend with. And if you're the same guy on another team, you may not have the help from your teammates to take you away from a double team and things like that. So I'm always interested to see what the pros think because Georgia guys, it is always very hard to discern, who's the winner of the beauty pageant of that defense every year.
Yeah. Well, I've been talking, Ben, lately. I was on a podcast in Atlanta with Vincent Turner and Harper LaBelle, and Harper played for the Falcons for about 6 years, lives over there in Sewanee. And Harper played at Colorado State, and he's a Falcons fan. And so he's watching right now, and I have pulled for them for a long time. You're a lifelong Falcons fan and a Braves fan. Got a lot of Braves fans that watch this too. Ben, Arthur Blank's got a lot of money. I don't know if Bernie Marcos is involved with the team, but you look at those Home Depot guys. They got a lot of money. I think 2-3 years ago, they gave over, I think it was $200 million to Atlanta Children's Hospital up there in Brookhaven. Generous beyond belief. So I just want to say that they're really nice guys. Why can't the Falcons win a Super Bowl? That 28-3 game, that's like kick 6 on steroids. if you're the other team.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, Atlanta's one of those teams. I mean, they've been to 2 Super Bowls. Obviously, the first one was a dud, and the second one you had an opportunity. But I just think that this is the first time that I can remember that the Falcons went all in on defensive linemen. I mean, you get 2 in the first round. Terry Fontenot, former GM of the Saints, he understands that we got our offense. I mean, and all those guys are on rookie deals. You know, Kyle Pitts, you know, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Michael Penix.
Yeah.
There was a stat last year with the Falcons. They had 7 sacks on third down all year. They had 7. You're not going to beat anybody like that. Oh. And I think for Terry Fontenot, he's realizing that, look, yes, you got Baker Mayfield with Tampa, and then we don't know who's going to be the quarterback in New Orleans. You got to deal with this Bryce Young kid, you know, in Carolina. It's anybody's division, but the Falcons beat Tampa Bay last year twice. Kirk Cousins had like 9 touchdown passes, no picks, and they was on the outside looking in when it came time. But I do agree with something Chris said when it comes to these Georgia, you know, D linemen. They're really, really good at Georgia because he's a 5-star, he's a 5-star, he's a 5-star. Well, now you got to be the star when you go to the NFL, and it's a total different ball game. Jordan Davis is a good example. I mean, he gets drafted before Jalen Walker. And now they already told him, we're not picking up your 5th-year option. Not because he's not a good player, but we saw Jordan Davis at Georgia. He's running down quarterbacks from sideline to sideline. I just think that whenever you get an SEC D lineman, sometimes, it's what they say, sizzle no steak. I mean, it's sometimes because, and it's not the player's fault. It's, hey man, of course, I'm a good player when the guy next to me is a great player. Of course, I'm a great player if the guy next to me is really, really good. Trayvon Walker went number 1 overall. He was on that D line that had the Jordan Davis and the Jalen Walker and those guys. So I think that now, do you still have to get them? Yes, because you don't want to not get them. And then they go to their team in your division and they beat you. But it's all about development because what's going to hurt the Falcons to me is not that they got 2 D linemen. Grady Jarrett just went to the Bears. You need a veteran to show the youngins how to do it. I don't care how good you are. Yeah, somebody got to show me. Every good player or every great player in the NFL had one thing in common. They had a mentor.
Yeah. Ben, hold that thought because Chris has got to transition to another show here in about a minute. And Chris, closing comments from you and let people know how they can follow you. Love having you on this show. Every time you're on, it's like Christmas. I mean, you really are because we'll get a lot more into baseball next time, but your closing thoughts.
Yeah, sorry I had to run to do another show. Baseball's coming down the home stretch. I'm really keeping an eye on the RPI, how the NCAA is going to sort out because you've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 SEC teams that could be national seeds and another 4 or 5 that could legitimately host regionals. Seeing whether the NCAA puts a cap on SEC teams and the number is going to be interesting. I've never seen anything like this. It's a fun time to watch SEC baseball. The talent is off the charts. It's been pleasure to meet you. Really enjoyed cheering for you as a Titan, and hopefully I can be on again when you're here.
We'll definitely do it.
Yeah,
Chris, thank you so much, man. Southeastern 16 folks, take a picture with that QR code. You'll love it for doing it. See you next week.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Ben, didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to say, I love what you said about the mentor part. And before we go back to that, I want to say something about one of our sponsors, Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. Athens, Alabama, on the top of the state, right next to Huntsville, Muscle Shoals. They got a store that's open every day of the week, has everything you need for the outdoor sports, the shooting sports, all the firearms that you need, the gear, the snake boots. Man, I live in Memphis and I'm over at the farm in Parkin, Arkansas. There are cottonmouths everywhere under wood piles. You've got timber rattlers. You got snakes. Get your snake boots, get your gear, get everything you need. Sitka, Dixie decoys, duck camp, all your loads, your ammunition. They have everything. And they're growing in the footprint that's the SEC. Look for that store to open later this summer in Auburn on University Drive. You will absolutely love it. They're open again every day of the week. Winter Timber Outdoors. Ben, before we are joined by Jake Wimberly of ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive down in Jackson, Mississippi, to talk a lot of football numbers, and you're going to love this stuff, Ben. Go back to the mentor part. We'll be brief, but you had mentors, but you're also a mentor. And Shoney down in Valdosta, he said, Ben's crippling realism with the Falcons is fun to observe.
Hey,
But the other thing was, he said, when is the Swainsboro mock draft held?
Hey, I'm just gonna start doing it. And I'm gonna see how many people I can, get outraged about my mock draft. And see how many, because the thing about the mock drafts, Rob, is people really take that to heart. They say, "Hey, man, they use it like a cheat sheet," and when it don't line up, mock drafts are like the NCAA tournament bracket. It's gonna be ripped up, after the first five picks. But the mentor aspect of things is why a lot of players become great players, because I don't care how talented you are. Somebody got to show you how to do this. We know you can play. That don't mean you know how to do this. When it comes to your body, when it comes to weightlifting, when it comes to training, when you want to make sure that when it comes to, I had Aaron Kinney, right, who showed me how to do it. I come into the facility, he pulled me to the side, he tell me if I need anything. I think now with a lot of players is people be thinking, hey man, I already got this thing figured out.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald was a good player. When he got Kurt Warner, he became a great player. When Kurt Warner got to the Cardinals, because your mentor can tell you what nobody else can tell you. They can say, when they can look at you and say, you all right. That last game you had, it was okay. They know how to push your buttons, but it's also Musa Muhammad was with the Carolina Panthers before Steve Smith Sr. got there.
Yeah,
and Steve Smith Sr. got drafted as a punt returner, and then Musa Muhammad showed him his check stub. He said, "This is how much starting receivers get." So and like I said, all the players can play, but I want to last. I don't want to be a good player. I want longevity. So I think that when you start talking about the mentor aspect, and it's like that in life. If I'm going into any profession, I want a vet that can help, that can show me the ropes, regardless if I'm gonna be around or not. It won't be because I didn't do my due diligence. They're not gonna like it, but they're gonna need it. So and what I do with my youngins, for my nonprofit.com crew, I mean, they help me way more than I helped them. I mean, it's about it's a people helping people program. It's grown men helping young men become better grown men. So
no, I agree with you. I've had mentors, and Ben will come back with us, but I've had mentors. My God, I've got mentors now. I mean, I don't think, Jake, we ever stop having mentors. And when someone asks me to help them, if it's an intern or whatever, I'd gladly do it. Hopefully Ben will be back with us. But Jake, you do a great show every afternoon, 3 to 6, 105.9 The Afternoon Drive in the bold new city, Jackson, Mississippi. Talk a little college football. And we've had Chris Lee on. The first half hour was Southeastern 16. Let's talk right now. First, I got to ask you. I was with some Mississippi State friends at a crawfish boil yesterday at the farm. Chris Lamonis, what's going to happen at Mississippi State? Because when you talk about football, you're Georgia, you're Alabama. You're expected to win 12. When Mississippi State, as Chuck Oliver says, you got left field. That's why we love college baseball. That's why we have the crowds like we have.
Yeah. Hey, and good morning, Rob.
Morning.
I think at the end of this, I mean, they're going to give him every chance to get this team to postseason. Obviously, that thing is, frailing kind of right now. We're kind of spiraling on that thing right now with 9 conference games left to play in the SEC tournament. I would say they're going to give him to the end of this. And then, if this thing doesn't work the way they want it to, which is postseason baseball, they're going to look somewhere else. So, a lot of pressure is going to be on Zach Selman with this. There's already a lot of pressure on Zach Selman just because, he is not as out in front or as vocal as, say, a Keith Carter is in this state. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that matters, right? I mean, when you're judged by your peers, you're judged versus your rival, which that happens across the board. Bama, Auburn, South Carolina, Clemson, Texas A&M. It's a big deal. And it's Mississippi State fans are fed up with it. We've talked about it on my show at length over the last several weeks. People asking questions, people griping. So, for Mississippi State fans, I think it's hard to swallow. It's a tough pill to swallow that, you look at it, a program that, for decades, when there was nothing else to latch onto, baseball was what you latched onto.
That's right.
And it was always LSU, Mississippi State, Burtman, Polk, bring in Bianco, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Florida. But now Mississippi State is staring straight up, and they're looking at about 10 different teams that can play this game just as good as they can. And some of them have more money, and some of them are doing it better.
Okay. Well, and I tell you, college baseball, the popularity in the South it's just keeps rising. And you look at more and more SEC players on opening day rosters. Those numbers are really impressive. And by the way, Jake, I there's no better sport, in my opinion, to attend in person than baseball. But Mississippi State, whoever you're a fan of, I think all of us pull from Mississippi State because we know what they did back in the early and mid 80s. When ESPN started putting college baseball on TV, those games, the flatbed trailers, the left field lounge, back when it was just, a populist movement. I mean, it started before the 80s. You know that. It started back in the 60s. Imagine those hippies out there with those meta muffins in those fields. No telling what kind of things, were going on out there. Mushroom City. I mean, it was just fun. But they created kind of a Lollapalooza atmosphere for college baseball. And I hate, when they won it all in 2021, I was texting Stan Jones and Alan Calicott and just different friends of mine that have been State fans. When you're a State fan, you don't stray. You don't wander off. But okay, good take on that. The rest of it, looking at Ole Miss and looking at the SEC. Let's talk some football. You've got these great numbers and matrices that you put together. Let's look at the 25 season coming up. I know, it's less than 3 months, man. We're all going to be in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. The anticipation going to Media Days is like the start of football season.
Oh, no, it is. No, it absolutely is. And when you look at the Southeastern Conference this year and, what this league is going to be like, I think it's going to be more of what we saw last year. And you've got to look at this and say, okay, hey, this league is really split, kind of into three, brackets, shall we say. You've got the lower rung bracket, and I was just pulling up my spreadsheets here, lower rung bracket, which is going to be your Mississippi States, your Arkansas, your Kentuckys of the world. And then you go to the top, you've got your Texas, Georgia, LSU, and some other teams as well. And then you've got those kind of sitting right in the middle. It's going to be interesting to see which of those teams in the quote middle can potentially move to the top. And just because you're in the middle doesn't mean that, for instance, you're necessarily a team that wins 6 games or 7 games. Teams that I have in the middle are teams like Auburn, teams like Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma. There's a lot of question marks. I mean, I think at the very top, you're going to go Texas, Georgia, at least today. And at the very bottom, we know where that is. And then it's what kind of movement can we have? What teams can potentially jockey for playoff positions like we saw at Tennessee last year?
Quarterback depth in the SEC, is it there? I mean, this past year, we had some quarterbacks. You started seeing DJ Lagway emerge as the season went on. And as he got better, Florida got better. Go figure, But the guy like DJ and he also attracts other players. That's a 1 and 1 equals 3 deal. And you think about it, 7 minutes left in Jacksonville. It's 20 all. DJ gets hurt. They don't win the game. It's not just because of that, but it was a big factor. Give me your top quarterbacks if you want to do that right now.
Sure.
Right now. At this moment,
right now,
because we know with the portal that could change by the time the show's over.
Right. Well, the good thing is,
I said that
you can't jump in right now, so that's a good thing. But there are guys out there, so so there's no more jumping in until later on this year.
Technically,
technically, that's correct, Brendan. Technically, and Brendan, I'm glad to see you're working today.
No, I don't work.
Yeah,
I sit here and drink coffee and I watch the portal. And then I go to soccer.
Yeah, that's right.
I got the farmer tan.
There you go.
Good. Yeah.
So
thanks, Jake. It's good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you, brother. The way I do this, Rob, and you guys know this, and I have to explain this a lot of times because people either they just now see my stuff or they just don't pay attention to it. And then they say, wait a minute. So my quarterbacks today are based basically on what we have data-wise For instance, DJ Lagway, I expect him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference. I do not have him there today. So, today what I have at the top, believe it or not, is I have a John Mateer quarterback at Oklahoma who comes into the conference who really just, kind of a Cam Ward, ascension. This is John Mateer is on from, a college to Washington State and now to Oklahoma. Garrett Nussmeier, Diego Pavia, Arch Manning, Nico was there, take him off, but you could almost interchange him. I hate to say this with the quarterback from App State, but then you got Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway. The questions that I have here is where are the stars? Because, Garrett Nussmeier, can he be a star? Probably so. Arch Manning, is he going to be a star? You would think he would. DJ Lagway, I think there's a lot of unknowns. Ty Simpson, who I have way down the list here at 13, I'm sitting here looking at, and I have a lot of people go, my God, at 13. But here's the thing. What do we know about Ty Simpson? There's not a whole lot that we know about Ty Simpson. There's not a lot of data. So these things will move and churn. Who's going to be the stars of the league is what I want to know, because right now we don't have that. Arch Manning has the name, but is he really going to be a star?
Well, when Ty Simpson came out of Martin, Tennessee, Westview High School, and his dad's like in his 20th year coaching UT Martin, he was a 5-star. It was a big deal when Alabama got him. He's got a younger brother coming up. But I'll say this from Alabama friends that I trust and that really know that program. That's the guy that if Kalen DeBoer could have had his choice for the perfect quarterback for his system, it would have been Ty Simpson. But when you've got guys that have all been doing the same thing, it's hard to flip gears. Like people will tell you when Nick Saban got to Alabama in 2007, he wanted to get rid of 35 or 40% of that roster. But it would have hurt the team overall. So he did it. I'm going to predict Ty Simpson is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC this year. I just think he's really good. But again, how are you going to play when the other guys are going to hit you as hard as they can and you don't have on that special jersey? That's a difference.
No, it is. It's a huge difference. What we always say, 707 guys versus, guys with bullets flying. And so, I'm going to be interested to see, what happens at Alabama at quarterback. I'm going to be interested to see how good is Gunnar Stockton at Georgia.
Yeah.
Because we saw Gunnar Stockton, but we don't know a lot about Gunnar Stockton. Jackson Arnold, at Auburn, he's in a situation where Hugh Freeze has not, for whatever reason, this quarterback situation has not worked out on the Plains. And you know that better than anybody. And this guy is a guy that was supposed to be the guy at Oklahoma. They basically pushed Dylan Gabriel to Oregon, in lieu of Jackson Arnold. So can he be the guy that everybody thought he could? There are so many questions. Diego Pavia. Is this guy going to take the whole conference hostage? What is he going to do? So what is his second season look like?
Well, he went to Volcano High School in Albuquerque. He's a state wrestling champion. He is tough as nails. And they showed his mom on TV. She looks like Sophia Loren. She's gorgeous. And this guy's family, I think he's got a bunch of brothers. I tell you, he's a tough kid. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, but he's going to end up having his Vanderbilt degree, and he'll be able to tell a lot of stories at corporate dinners and stuff like that. But go back to Jackson Arnold. When he came out of Denton, Texas, in the Metroplex out there, he was the number 4 quarterback in the country, number 10 overall player. But I think at the time, he was the highest rated offensive recruit Oklahoma had ever signed. And last year, September 21st, Tennessee comes to town. And in the second quarter, he's benched for a legacy player, Michael Hawkins. Kind of strange. Let's flip to the defense. You got to have, and I don't have the list in front of me right now. Where did Walter Nolan from Ole Miss get drafted?
Oh, I think he was late first round.
But he was first round. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the front sevens of the SEC, the 2 and 3 deeps, that's always set this league apart. And, last year, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Brendan, jump in as well. Florida had the number 9 roster in the country last year by the Blue Chip Index. That's 4 and 5-star players signed in every 4-year cycle. And as the year went on, those guys started playing better. LJ McCray, they've got some studs at Florida by default, Jake. let's talk about the defense in the league because you can't outscore everybody.
No, you can't. And defense is going to be, I mean, you look at the way Ohio State played defense, in their run of the national championship this past year. You look at Michigan 2 years ago, the way they played defense. I mean, you still got to play defense. When you look at defense, there's so many ways you can quantify this. Blue Chip Index is definitely one way. Another way is defensive scoring efficiency and the way teams, perform on the, as far as week to week, as far as efficiency wise. I look at teams like Texas last year. Texas had a really, really good defense. They were 12th in defensive scoring efficiency last year. LSU got much better defensively down the stretch. Georgia, is a team that kind of floundered a little bit. I mean, they still put guys in the league this past weekend, but this is a team that, was somewhere around 21, 22. Ole Miss, obviously really good defensively, except for in about 3 games. So there's some question marks here. Alabama, how good can they be? Can they return? Texas A&M, plays or has played as good a defense as anybody over the last couple of years. Can they continue to do that? But the question again is, where's the depth? Who has the depth? Because I don't know that we see the depth anymore. And I don't know that you're ever going to see the depth that we've seen at Georgia, at Alabama. But I would expect, right off the cuff, Texas, Georgia, Texas A&M, probably Alabama. Those teams will probably be, at the top of the Southeastern Conference defensively. You would think that they would be.
Yeah, and a good offense can help your defense tremendously. But when you have these hurry up, no huddle offenses, and you're scoring in 35-second, 40-second drives, that defense just gets worn out. And if you don't have depth, those big guys are going to just collapse. I don't know how they play it. But another thing, 79 SEC players drafted, but 71 from the Big Ten. And you think about that. Really what we're seeing, I think people probably thought when we went to NIL in the portal, it would spread the talent out, but it's bunching back. I mean, the Big Six is what I call them since the 1963 in the SEC football. There's only 6 teams that have won the SEC championship. Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. Somebody who's most likely to be the team to break into that exclusive club and sit at the big boy table. I mean, because Texas and OU are brand new, but Texas in their first year got real close. But Georgia, they didn't have to play Georgia in the Big 12. They had to play them twice last year, lost both times.
Yeah, I think you have to look at Texas and Oklahoma. And I know a lot of people will laugh at Oklahoma, but I like Oklahoma this year, not to win the conference, but I like Oklahoma to have a bounce back type year. Texas and Oklahoma possibly could be, look at Texas first to be the team to jump into that club. And then of course, I think you got to look at Oklahoma. If you're looking at potentially a team that has not won it, since then, maybe you go to Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, is the next one because of what he's been able to do. And, he seems happy there. I don't know if you guys saw him on Theo Von.
Loves it. Yes, I did.
That was a Lane Kiffin we don't see often. He was more relaxed. He was more conversational, and he seems to really like Oxford. And there's always been a question of that. Is he looking for a way out? And he still may be, but I would have to go, Oklahoma, Texas, not necessarily in that order, and then Ole Miss.
Well, that's the thing. His daughter moved back. She's going to school at Ole Miss. Son moved back. He said, loves it. And who wouldn't love living in Oxford, Mississippi? By the way, Double Decker was over the weekend, the big party, about 100,000 people in Oxford. Talked to some friends that were down there. I mean, it's a fun place. And I think he's very happy. And Ole Miss is mad because they only won 10 games last year. That's how you get to be 14, 15 win teams, Jake. Because they've raised that bar. And the question is with Kiffin, is he going to be comfortable living in that fishbowl? Hell, he's been at Alabama. He's been at Southern Cal. He's been under the microscope, hadn't he?
No, he has. And he spoke of that, this past interview with Vaughn. He spoke of it before. He's been under the microscope. I don't think the microscope bothers him.
No.
And, one of the things Ole Miss has going for them is everybody, at least on the surface, seems to be pulling the rope in the same way, from Keith Carter to the collective to, everybody in the athletic department to Lane Kiffin, they understand what to do with the transfer portal. They understand what to do with name, image, and likeness. And that's a big deal because there's a lot of places, and probably some in this state that are not pulling the rope in the same direction.
All right. Is it time for a curveball? I'm going to throw you one. Let's go up to Missouri. And Brendan, jump in here, man. Ben Troupe was on with us. I think he lost his connection. He's moved up to Kennesaw from Savannah. He's up in the mountains. But Ben come back in. He said 5 minutes, but he may have had a call. Missouri football. They've got that NIL deal where if you're in high school and you commit to Missouri, you can start getting payments. It's pretty attractive. And, they were pretty good last year. What kind of ceiling do they have with Eli Drinkwitz this year?
This year I have Missouri right now going 6-6, 7-5. I think it's going to be a little bit of a dip this year for them. There's a lot of players that they're having to replace. If you look at this team last year, this is a team that was about a touchdown better, scoring the football. They averaged 29 a game, gave up 21 a game.
Good point.
They lost 3 ball games this past year, but then there was some victories that, could have went the other way. I always say, look, and it's weird. It's hard to quantify it. A team that wins 2, 3, 4, 5 ball games by a touchdown or less this year typically will flip the next year. You look last year, they had a 6-point victory over Boston College, a 3-point victory over Vanderbilt. They had a 7-point win over Oklahoma, and then they had a 7-point win over Arkansas and a 3-point win over Iowa. So, you lose Burton III, you're losing a lot of those guys off a team that, hey, congratulations, you won a lot of ball games last year. You didn't make the playoff, but now you're kind of having to reset. So I want to see how they reset this year. I think that they will drop a game or two. I think they'll be a bowl team, but I don't think that the expectations are nearly as high as they were last year.
That being said, you look at Arkansas, and they try to make that a rivalry. But, Madden Iamaleava, we better watch this one because Arkansas, Hunter Yurachek, the AD, has said they're looking at going after him. Everybody else does this. They will sue you if you leave before your contract's over. That's coming. It's going to happen. But Bobby Petrino's in his second year there. That man can coach quarterback. Say what you want about him, but he can coach football, and that's what he's paid to do. Do the Hogs improve on last year? What they win? 7?
Yeah, I believe, let's see, they won last year. They did win 7. I've got them dropping back to about 5 wins this year. And I look at it just because of, again, the schedule that they play. You look at Arkansas' schedule. They play Ole Miss week 3 on the road. They do have to go to Memphis, and look, we know that's not your typical Memphis trip. It used to be, no. And they play Notre Dame. So you play in Notre Dame and Memphis in the non-conference. You have to go to Tennessee. You have to play Texas A&M, Auburn, and Mississippi State all in a row, and then on the road to LSU and Texas, and then Missouri. I just think the schedule is, it's going to be one of the harder ones in the conference. And I just don't know that they can get to 6 this year. And I don't know that Sam Pittman's going to make it. I know we said that last year. Maybe Bobby Petrino helps get them to that 6-point, plateau, and they land the plane in a bowl game.
Well, Sam, I guess what's going on right now is the Lake Hamilton watch. Everybody knows Big Sam loves to go down there and drink cold beer at Lake Hamilton by Hot Springs, which, by the way, if you're ever going to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and you've seen the movie Sling Blade, you can go to Benton, Arkansas, and get the VIP tour of where they filmed the movie Sling Blade.
I did not know that.
You can go to the Frosty Cream, the Washateria. How far you got to carry the wash? I'll help you if I don't give out first. Carl lives, and Billy Bob said he knew a character like that growing up. So I know plenty of guys like that. Trust me. But I don't think that 5 wins, they'll be happy at Arkansas. Not the Razor's Edge Collective. They can't be happy. Okay. You mentioned LSU. Garrett Nussmeier's back for his 5th year. Here's a kid whose dad, Doug, coached at Alabama, but he loves LSU. You know what insurance is? We know what it is. Home insurance, health insurance, life insurance. You know what insurance is if you're a college football player? Staying 4 or 5 years at the same school and working your ass off, no matter what happens, you've got connections that most men only dream of, Jack.
No, you're right,
Jake.
And that's okay. I'll go by Jack.
How did I say Jack? I was kidding about. Sorry about that, Jake. No, but Quinn Ewers. Hey, someone said, get your study for the life insurance exam, because you think that guy couldn't open up put his shingle out and sell some insurance to people, go in there and, hey, I'll buy a $10 million whole life policy. Just tell me some Texas stories.
Yeah.
That's insurance. Right. Stick it out at the same school,
Hey, look, I like this LSU team. I've got them winning 10 ball games this year. I've got them making the college football playoff. I don't think that they'll win the conference, but I like Nussmeier. The question for, Brian Kelly, of course, had some interesting comments as always about, I'm sure you saw it a couple weeks ago about, or maybe even a week ago, Nussmeier said he's got a cannon. He just wish it came with, instructions, and he'll hit a guy, in stride, and then he'll throw it to the band member. But I mean, the guy's got an opportunity to be really good this year. The question I have for LSU is defensively, can they, get back to what LSU is used to playing defensively? And look, the last 2 years, oddly against Alabama, it has not even been close. And I don't know where that mismatch is all of a sudden, but I think this is a team that can punch a ticket to the playoff. I have them going to the playoff. It's that week 1 game against Clemson is probably the best matchup of week 1. Having to go, Brian Kelly, though, desperately needs a week 1 victory. I mean, he's 0-3 in big time ball games. And, I actually have them losing to Clemson week 1 by just a little bit. But if they could go on the road and upset Clemson on the road, boy, you talk about just kind of a pop off for this season for them. That would be big.
Yeah. And, I'm trying to get Dabo Swinney to come on the show with Ellis Johnson. I think I'd just like to hear his philosophy. You look, if you're any other conference other than the SEC or the Big Ten, you better be getting together and figuring out how to stop what's happening. Because Jackie Sherrill 33 years ago, Buddy Martin said the same thing. We're going to have 4 super conferences or the NFC and the AFC. That's where we are heading. Jake, before we wrap up, and we got several more minutes, but tell me this. I've asked you, and I'm looking at the list here. Kentucky, South Carolina. Mark Stoops, when he got on the plane allegedly to go to A&M and came back, we know the story of Lazarus, but the longer that Mark Stoops is there, that's a 500 program. But talk about Kentucky and, what's their future with him. And I know basketball's spending a lot of money. They're reverting back to what they were good at.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic there at Kentucky. I have them again going under the 6 threshold, 4 to 5 wins this year. Quarterback play was horrible last year. And that's kind of been the thing for Kentucky is offensively, they were okay when you look at Will Levis. They were okay in some other areas, but they missed on a couple quarterbacks. They're scheduled this year, when you kind of look through Kentucky, they'll play Ole Miss, host Ole Miss week 2. Now, that would be a great opportunity for them to kind of show, hey, we can, we're still relevant. We're still in this thing. But they got to go to South Carolina, to Georgia. They play Texas, Tennessee, Auburn on the road, have to go to Vanderbilt, have to go to Louisville, and then, of course, play Florida. So they're going to be an underdog in about 7 ball games this year. Again, Mark Stoops is, I think, a good football coach. I think he's done more with less at Kentucky. He's put them on the map. But I just don't know that this thing, I'm with you, Rob. It feels like it's kind of sliding backwards for Kentucky.
Yeah. All right, let's head down to Gainesville, Alachua County, home of the Gators. Gator boys stay hot. I do love that slogan. Apparently it's been around for a while. From the 06-07 deal, Walter Nolan Jr.'s brought it back. Billy Napier. I know he gets a lot of criticism, and there's a lot of Gators watching this show, and Brendan and his dad have GatorBaitMedia.com. And check out the Buddy Martin Show tonight, folks, 9 p.m. Eastern on this very channel. They'll talk about Florida, but they'll talk about a lot. I think Billy Napier's figuring this thing out at Florida. Agree or disagree?
No, I do. I really do. I have Florida winning 8 or 9 this year. I had them winning 8, but now that Tennessee game, I had them a slight disadvantage in the Tennessee game. But now, when you're talking about changing quarterback here, I think Florida could get to 9. I think they'll be one of these teams that's going to be right there in the conversation for the playoff this year. Again, I'm with you. I think he is figuring this thing out. And if DJ Lagway can be everything everybody feels like he can be, I mean, Florida's got an opportunity. They're going to get off the bus, and they're going to win 2 ball games quickly. Then they got to go to LSU and they got to go to Miami. Even if they split those two ball games, I think that they're still going to be right there in the picture. But if they can go 4-0, I mean, that is, you talk about going on the road to LSU, on the road to Miami. If they can somehow get to claw their way to 4-0, then that will definitely tell you this team is not only, going the right direction, but this is a new day in Florida under Billy Napier.
Yeah, because I think they go on the road and I think they trounce Miami. I really do. I think Billy Napier, there are two things about him. I know there was some disorganization early on with too many players and not enough guys on the field, but he's got genes. He's got really good genes. Dad coached from a wheelchair. He's tougher than a nickel steak. But I got him to win 10 this year. I had him to win 8 last year, and they did it with the bowl game. I'm not always right, but I usually am. All right, before we go, one more school, got to ask you, go back to South Carolina with Lenora Sellers. Roman Harper said on the show a couple of weeks ago, he said, man, he's a big guy, but when he's on the way down, he's able to throw passes, and they're completed. He's a big physical guy with a ton of ability. Shane Beamer won 9 last year. Felt like they should have been in the playoffs, but you got to win against LSU. You got to win those other games that you didn't win.
Yeah, look, this is a team that I've got going 8-4 with a chance to get to 9. On the schedule, they'll open up with Virginia Tech this season, and then of course I've got them going 5-0 out the gate. South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, on the road at Missouri and Kentucky. After that, I mean, that stretch between the two byes at LSU, they host Oklahoma, Bama, and go to Ole Miss. That's going to be their season right there. I mean, that right there is going to dictate, hey, is this team really going possibly to the playoff or potentially into the playoff, or are they going to be just a bowl team? And then, of course, after the bye week, Texas A&M, Coastal Carolina, and Clemson. So, I mean, it's a very tough schedule. Lenore Sellers, though, again, along with DJ Legway, expected to be the two of the best, if not the two best in the SEC, along with Arch Manning. So it'll be fun to see. I've got them winning 8, but that middle stretch there in October between the two byes, that's going to be, we'll know what they're made of.
Yeah. All right, Jake, we'll wrap it up. Catch him this afternoon, 3 p.m. to 6, 105.9 The Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. And Jake, how do they follow you on the X and all that other good stuff?
Yeah, just at Jake Wim on X. Also, Jake Wimberly on Facebook. It's open. It's public. We don't care. Just follow along there. And then, of course, on Instagram and more. Rob, appreciate you and Brendan as always.
I've wrapped this one in maroon and white. We'll see you. Thank you. All right. Hey, Brendan, let me say something about a couple of sponsors. Landers Ford, Memphis.com. Get out there right now. Okay, here's some stuff going on. $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. If you're looking to buy a Raptor, they get a few in. Everybody has a small allotment. They've got some. The 25 Ford Expeditions are out there. They are hot, okay? Service department open every day except Sunday. Dealership is open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Take advantage of our savings opportunities. They will work with you. Come in there to ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Again, you're worried about the tariffs. They got employee pricing for their customers, okay? LandersFordMemphis.com, Poplar and Houston Levy, where Memphis meets Collierville. If you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much, and they ain't kidding. And right down the street, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. I'm going to hop out there this week. They've got a massive selection of men's and women's boots, some on back order, Wild Boar, but they've got, you name it. They've got them available out there. Great looking luggage for the men and women. Kids boots,
Wild Boar boots.
Yeah, I'm about to have to switch gears and find the pair for you other than Wild.
I'm done with these bad boots I got. I need a pair of boots.
We need 11 and a half for the big Brendan. For the big
11 and a half. Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah, there's that right there's a greater kudu, but I'm trying to find you the Wild Boar, but we've been they haven't gotten any in since in 6 weeks. But I guess they're over. They just maybe they're all stuck somewhere. But hey, if you've got boots, an old pair of boots, you want to get them fixed, they can restore them to look as good as they were the day you bought them. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Great folks out there at Hewlett & Dunn. Great selection of products and fast shipping, HewlettandDunn.com. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Get out and about. They'll make great things happen every single day. We'll see you tonight on the Buddy Martin Show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching. Thank you, executive producer